Join our challenges. The signal passed.
Gave that pitch a vibrato. Pitches love vibrato.
Thanks, Johnny and Phil, for the PitchPerfect challenge. All right, on to our guest, Loren Littlejohn.
All right, guys, welcome to the TSP Podcast, and today I got with me Loren Littlejohn.
What's up,
Just a group
Loren?
member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So found a
But
member
ori- but
here.
Yeah, I was gonna say an original. I went over with you.
Yeah.
when
And
you
do
started it.
you remember being on the old group?
I do, and I remember when you told me that they had asked you. I was like, "Oh, he's starting a group. I'm going to go over there."
Are you still in the old group too?
I'm not. No, I left that one.
Okay.
I'm in some other ones, but I left that one.
Yeah, man. I thought you were spying with me, but I got a couple
Yeah.
other guys at TSP that are
Yeah.
spying.
No, I haven't been keeping up with that group anymore.
Yeah, dude, I helped grow that group from like maybe 1,000 people to 18,000
Yeah.
by like 2019 or something. I was just plugging away, invite, and then
Well, and I kind of took issue with. I don't like it when they're just axing everyone. Like I don't have an issue with people hawking gear as long as it's on. As long as it's a part of the group. Like if you got a cool pedal to show off, then that shouldn't be a problem. Just
Yeah,
my
man.
opinion, but
I was sharing all of our friends, man, all of our friends that build and all the DIY guys.
yeah.
And you've built a few from what I remember too.
Yeah. I build as a hobby though. I don't sell any of my work, and it's primarily because I don't want to get into supporting it. If somebody calls up and says, "Hey man, it blew up," I don't want to deal with that, so I don't build for other people.
Yeah, I totally get it. That's called aftercare, and
yeah, it's not for me.
yeah. So kind of how we met, just so everybody that's listening, there was an older gear group that I've kind of cherry picked all the best employees from all the other groups.
Yeah.
And started the TSP group, and at the time, I think I even named it Guitar Pedals or something just to get started, if you remember.
Yeah, I think so. And it took a while to figure out, what you were going to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just like Guitar Pedal Enthusiasts or something like that.
Yeah, we were just pummeling around, but I kind of gave the voting to everybody in the group, and I think
I
you
remember
really
that.
pitched
Yeah.
in a lot of the suggestions and ideas, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna let you guys name this group, and we've stuck with that name ever since.
Yeah, and it's worked out well. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just like the vibe over there, man. Any shenanigans get stomped down. That was actually one of the issues with the old group, is at one point there was almost no moderation, but it was such a big group that you just have massively off topic stuff come up, and I'm like, man, I don't want to talk about politics in this forum. I just want to talk about pedals and what's going on with pedals and gear, and so like that was. But then they came in with a moderation, and I felt that they went kind of too hard the other way. So,
and I think originally you were part of like Guitar Forums, early 2000s, that era as well.
Yeah. No, I was in the Andy Sneap forum for a while. I don't know if you ever made your way there. That was
you gave me some links back then for that and maybe the gear page, if I remember. God, it goes way back, right, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like 2018, and that seems like ages ago, but yeah. But we started the group and everything, and I think you were cherry picking all your friends, and I was picking everybody I could possibly add to the group as well.
Yeah, I've definitely put some work into making Facebook kind of more tolerable. I don't really accept random friend requests anymore, because it's like, well, we're just going to argue outside the group, or it's going to be stupid somehow. I just don't want to do it, so I don't do it anymore.
But I always bounce back some honest feedback, and I consider yourself and guys like Phil. It was on our last podcast, and
yeah, I really enjoyed that episode, by the way.
Yeah, I think you and Phil have been talking back and forth on serious
possibly
tech.
I'm bad with names, so it's possible.
Yeah, it's so hard to memorize so many names at one time, but
yeah, absolutely.
But you guys are really making it enjoyable, and I make sure I try to put some fresh stuff out there. But me, as soon as I see something, share.
Yeah.
But talking platforms, I know that you said Facebook's not the best platform. You've been talking about Discord, and
I chat with my cousin on Discord. I wasn't sure what you were using to record this podcast, so that's kind of why I mentioned it. Yeah. I don't really use Discord outside of like just chatting with friends.
Yeah, I was thinking like Discord and Twitch is more of the gaming platform, but I haven't just got used to that vernacular yet. But
okay. Yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, you can create like a chat group in it, but you can also just chat directly with people, like over
Yeah.
video or audio. So, which makes sense for like PC gaming, I guess.
Yeah, and normally,
But I
like
don't-
if you're like always in question of something, you've always hit me up like directly. But I've never had a
Yeah.
problem with that.
Yeah, no. And in terms of like Facebook, in terms of like how it works for me now, it's primarily, if I'm going to talk to somebody directly, it's just going to be through Messenger.
Yeah,
Unless it's like a topic in a group. I mean, I guess that's kind of the other thing I'm using Facebook for these days is gear groups and, the hobbies that I'm into.
yeah.
You know,
And I think some of the
that.
gear guys are actually moving over to TikTok. Like some of your YouTube channels are pushing content there because of shorts. And
Yeah,
reels.
yeah, no, I I definitely understand kind of that form. My only issue with that is one, I'm just not that I'm not that good short term, like it's like I'm never gonna be able to spit out what I want.
Yeah,
And
you're like me. You're very detail oriented.
yeah, I did a review on the Joyo cab box, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep this that short because like there's software involved and stuff. Like I want to show all that, I don't want to just say, all right, it's a cabinet emulator and you plug it into your amp and there you go,
Yeah, and it has like 200 sims or something. There's some crazy number in it.
Yeah, it's got quite a bit of built in, and then you can load 10 of your own. It's a pretty good unit. I think it's somewhat hard to justify it now because some of the other cabinet emulators are also including, preamp emulators. And for not that much more money. So that one's kind of tough. It's a good pedal, but for the price, it's kind of tough to recommend it.
Yeah,
Over, like the AC one or the
or
the
even the
Stripe,
Helix.
the Iridium or the Helix
Iridium.
or
Yeah.
any of those pedals that kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, those are the Swiss Army blade kind of
Yeah.
things. But honestly, I think I've shared my love for multi effects, but I think you even had a multi effects.
Oh, I've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm primarily a stomp box guy. I will say that. But I do have. I'll grab it real quick. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in the group have seen it.
Yeah. While he's talking there.
Yeah. This is my board, and I do have a stomp on it.
My God, dude, I forgot you had the KOT on there too.
Yeah. That's whoops. Oh.
You're good, man. So this is where I encourage everybody, if they're not checking out the Signal Path YouTube podcast, you can actually see everything on camera. But
yeah, and I'll explain it a little bit. The King of Tone is a clone that I built because the waiting list for that pedal is so astronomically long at this point that
I think it's at 4.5, maybe even the 5-year mark now.
Yeah, and I don't want to pay what the used market on them is just insane. So I was either going to buy a clone or make my own, and I ended up going with the DIY route. And it's a great pedal. I mean, I love it. I'd love to own an original. I just didn't want to wait.
Yeah, we got a few guys in the group that actually have their own. They actually waited 3 years, I think, for theirs.
Yeah,
honestly,
no, and I considered putting myself on the list. I just never did.
So. I think I would love to do the list if I had a good spare $500 and wouldn't mind it sitting there for a little while, which I may do because I really have a heart for Mike's work. Analog Mike is he's a legend in his own right.
Yeah, no, and I would love to, give them the business for it. It's just, the wait list doesn't really work when it's so far off that you're going to get one.
Yeah.
But I tend to try to shy away from building direct clones of things.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the components are not a 1-to-1 match in that pedal, but I like the circuit. It sounds great.
Yeah, we got a number of guys. They have either like the Amaze Prince of Tone or even the King of Tone, and they all sound. There's probably some component values that are just slightly different, but they sound dead on, dude. And it's a transparent pedal.
Well, I know at one point the King of Tone was using kind of, I won't say unobtainium because you can get it, but some old like Panasonic diodes, I think. in the clipping section that aren't made anymore. Now he may have gotten away from that because it's harder to find them, but I think that was part of the reason why it was so special is he was using some unobtainium in there, some not made anymore stuff.
Yeah, for me, those vintage component values, they could vary, and honestly, if they match the voltage and capacitance like they should, it should be a very close match, and maybe the purist would only know the difference. Honestly,
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, I did a rat clone and stuck that LM308 chip in there, and I don't think it matters that much. If you gave me a brand new rat, I'd be happy with that too.
even the little rat, man, like the little rat's SMD. It's a fun little pedal, and I've actually had the chance to borrow a LM308 big box rat, and
Okay.
yeah, and it's crunchy, man. That's just a great pedal in design overall. But honestly, you being an enthusiast and doing kit builds, what's been your favorite builds with that so far?
Oh, I actually pulled it down. You ready? So
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
actually, to my knowledge, this is an example of something that you can't buy outside of building it. But this is a L5 preamp. INFX makes the PCB,
Okay.
and it's a preamp. It's a 2-channel preamp. The interesting thing about this, though, is it actually doesn't run on DC power. It runs on AC power. It's a 9-volt AC power pedal. But dude, it sounds awesome. And I'm trying to remember. I think it was King's X used the original amp, the L5. I don't remember the company that makes it off the back of my hand, but I guess early King's X, he was using that amp. So they have like some recommended settings for that. But no, it sounds really great. Like it's really great. But the downer of it, to my knowledge, is you either have to find a builder and buy it off Reverb, or build it yourself. And it's not a pedal I would recommend if you're diving into it the first time. There's a lot of components in that thing, but
Just being PC powered is enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, the components aren't really that different in terms of like populating the board. I mean, you're still dealing with 1/4 watt and 8 watt. Actually, it's 1/4 watt, and I think there was a few 1/2 watt resistors, and it's still resistors, capacitors, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of them. I mean, I think the resistors, I think there was probably, if I'm remembering right, like a good 80 or 90 of them on that PCB. So it's a lot to, you got to keep all that straight. Yeah, it's not a good first build, but maybe after pedal 5, when you're feeling a little bit better about it, it might be a good one to do.
Yeah, so honestly, DIY builds are pretty cool, and
Yeah.
I know you've been involved with those groups as well outside of TSP, which is totally fine.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a great group. I mean,
Mhm.
you find a lot of people that are willing to help. People that are just getting into it, because I think they want to see that. The people in it want to see that hobby grow.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
And I've just built that Big Muff clone. It was a China kit like back in 2018, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And I think even when I needed help with stuff like that, I think those guys helped out and make sure that I had the right solder heat and everything. And
Yeah. If there's a pedal that I've built and somebody's having a problem with it, I'll pull it apart, snap a picture of it, and say, well, mine works, and this is what it looks like. Like if there's anything different, you can reference this. Or I mean, I think some of those Chinese kits, because I may have even done the same pedal you possibly talking about. Was it the Lantone off Amazon?
yeah, it was.
I gifted it to somebody, but yeah, there was no wiring guide for it. So I had to like Google around for that.
Yeah,
If I remember right.
I wasn't sure whom it was, but that's how I got it too. Was a PDF that somebody sent through that group. For the same reasons.
Yeah. People are pretty supportive on there, which is really nice.
Yeah. So I encourage anybody that's on TSP, if they're not in DIY builders group, to actually go on there, because that's how I found a lot of our great guys like Riley Morgan from Scattered Works.
Yeah.
and Nathan from LRC, and a lot of the other guys I share all the time because of the DIY group, and that's where we grew originally.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to have a bunch of builders in pedal groups, because they're enthusiasts too, usually. Usually they're really into it as well and pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And what's out there.
Have you ventured out trying to build an amp or anything? I know you do guitar mods and stuff like that too. But...
Yeah, I haven't done an amp yet. I'm going to eventually, because at this point I feel pretty confident that I could,
yeah,
without killing myself. Like, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people shy away from it because they don't know what can kill you, and that's understandable. But yes, I feel confident at this point I could do it. I just, it's kind of a price thing. I don't want to do one that's like not worth doing, I guess. It's kind of the way it's like the way I look at it.
Logitone kits are
solid,
man. I know a lot
and I think they're what is it? They're 5E3 or whatever, the little tweed Fender clone.
Yeah, the tweed Bassman and also the Princeton.
Yeah.
Like early brown faces, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to have a Bassman 100 70s silver face, and surprisingly not like a ton of components in there. It was all point to point and everything because it was older. Yeah. But yeah, quite loud, lots of overhead.
Yeah. And I think they even have like the turret board, like the boutique look to it and everything. Mm-hmm. Everybody loves that look. And
you open up a nicely done amplifier and it's like, oh, that looks really good. Yeah.
Cool, man. So that's a lot of our DIY stuff. So you kind of want to get onto amps and pedals. So what's new with you with pedals? What you gassing for?
Well, I'll show you my latest acquisition. It was kind of a weird one, but I wanted a looper that wasn't tied to another pedal. So I actually picked up one of these used, and this is the old,
solid, man.
Yeah, the old 500X. I mean, that was basically, I'm not going to say it was basically the Helix of its time, but it was their top of the line. I'm not going to say it's the Helix because it was considerably more affordable when they put it out. I want to say they were asking $600 or $700 for it back when they were producing it.
The POD XT Live was still out at the time, so it was, that was their flagship, and then that was the upgraded model from the pod model.
Yeah. The modeling is a little. So I had the XT stuff. I had a one of the pod things that plugged into your computer and you ran Pod Farm with it,
like the Beam.
Well, it wasn't a Beam. What was it called? The tone port. I had a tone port.
Oh, it had like the googly eye shape.
Yeah. It was really kind of an interesting design, but that ran Pod Farm, and that was like the Pod XT technology. Like that was that stuff.
Yeah, it's back when Firewire was a thing.
Yeah, and this is a little bit different than that. The amp models and the available effects they must have been updated because a lot of the stuff I didn't recognize it.
There was some plugins I remember because you could download using the interface for Line 6.
Yeah.
And I remember the Mark Tremonti settings that I had downloaded to mine when I had it.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite settings. At the time I played a lot of high gain, so that made sense. But
no, and in terms of amplifiers, they're kind of buried in the other room. I don't have it set up, otherwise I would show you, but I have a Revision F Mesa Boogie dual rectifier and a PV5150. So I'm definitely a metalhead. It's just a half stack is just kind of loud these days, so I'm mostly just playing in headphones just because I'll turn it on every once in a while, but it's just the minimum usable volume on amps that cranked up it's pretty loud.
Well, even the dual 60 watt, half of it, like if you took like half section out of the tube, power tubes, it's 60 watts, which I've seen.
It's still loud though.
Yeah, I've seen some guys do that just so they can have some headroom on the front end of the amp. Mm-hmm. And it's staggered, like because they're not like side by side. You have to kind of do like 1 and 3
it's every other
or something. Yeah,
I want to say it's 1 and 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did that so they can get some more crank out of the gain channel of it.
Yeah.
Is
I
yours
mean,
two channel?
yeah, both of them are. And for the longest time, my Mesa Boogie, I didn't even have the rectifier tube in it because I was running it, with the diode.
Oh yeah.
Instead of the rectifier tubes, the whole spongy and bold thing on the back of it.
Yeah.
That's how
I
I
was a
was running
SAG
it.
player, so
Yeah, yeah. No, it sounds good either way. I mean, it's a boogie. It sounds how it sounds. I don't, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what the difference between. I've never owned a Revision G, like the latest one. That was my first Mesa Boogie amp like ever, and I actually didn't know it was a Revision F until I think it was Fluff, his YouTube channel, Riffs of Beards. He was doing like a Mesa Boogie thing, and I posted. I said, "Well, here's my serial number. I have no idea what it is." And he goes, "Yeah, that's definitely a Revision F because it's a certain range, I guess,
yeah, he's
in
kind
the
of
serial
the
number."
dual rec master in a way.
Yeah,
'cause he
yeah,
knows
he's
those serial numbers off the top of
yeah,
his head, which is he's a great contact if you can get a hold of him. Another guy
yeah.
that's
No,
upcoming is
and I've asked him questions. He's pretty good as long as you're not, picking his ear too hard.
yeah, like
Um,
some of those other guys, I would say they're kind of on the negative side of things. But
well, I mean,
Kyle,
and they're busy. I understand. You
yeah,
inundate them with the questions. They're busy doing their YouTube thing, man, and I don't blame them one bit. But no, Fluff's a nice guy. Seriously, anytime I've interacted with him, he's been solid. So
yeah, I haven't been
yeah.
able to share a lot of his stuff, but kind of one of the guys that's upcoming is Kyle Bull, which I've seen. He's kind of the amp guy that I know. And
Okay.
today I saw him post a Splon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Splon amplifications, but they're
I
from
am.
here.
Weren't they? Didn't Adam D from Kill Switch, wasn't he using them at one point?
Yeah. So when they did what's the double feature they have with the Jaguar? It was after Daylight, but the second album, like the 2nd and
Mhm.
third album, they were using Meza and a Tube Screamer tied into the loop section.
Okay.
And then after End of Heartache, they started going to experiment with the nitros and the quick rod
Okay. Yeah.
Splone
Yeah.
amps, and
I know a
that's what
bunch
they
of
ran for
people.
2 albums. But I'm sure they're on to something else again because they keep moving gear a lot. But
Yeah, and that's kind of I think the only thing that's really kept consistent with that band is the comparisons, the Apple horns, that they're rocking for
yeah,
guitars. But
definitely not
otherwise,
lead
yeah,
vocalist.
yeah, their gear seems to switch around a bunch,
yeah,
which I can't blame them.
yeah. The time I saw Adam D, he was playing a Parker Fly.
Oh yeah,
And,
okay.
and he was taking like a bottle and playing slide with it and just being a goober on stage like he always does. So.
Yeah, I have their End of Heartache DVD, and that's a fun DVD. I like to pop that in occasionally.
Yeah,
That's really good.
Joel talks a lot on that one, and that's the height of Howard in a way.
Yeah,
Before Daylight, but Kill Switch Engage, man, like that whole area with hardcore, you had like Hate Breed and All That Remains, all those
yeah,
guys that came out mid 2003 2004 that just came out of the Connecticut
yeah,
area.
yep, yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
In that
but,
era. We actually, so I'll real quick. I'm
Yeah,
from
go ahead.
Auburn, New York, and we actually have two bands that have been like signed out of this area. One's a little bit more well known, which is Man of War.
yeah,
Big '80s band. But the other one that probably is a little lesser known is If Hope Dies, and they're kind of in the same vein as kind of Kill Switch type stuff. Although there's no real singing and stuff. It's a lot more core based stuff. They're not doing it anymore to my knowledge, but yeah, I remember, during that era, it was like, man, there's some good scene, around here. And then it kind of went away. So
yeah. That's nearly 20 years ago when that whole scene came out, and that was
yeah,
I don't want to say some of my peers. I was more on the melodic hard rock side, so we were covering stuff that sounded more like Godsmack and Disturbed, like what my
yeah.
band.
And I want to say, well, I think If Hope Dies was like a good 15 years ago. I mean, this is dating me a little bit, but yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, that was kind of my music scene there for a while, and then got me into playing drums and got me into recording. And honestly, I think we even joked about it on TSP was scoop the mids.
Yeah. No, that was that was the that used to be the thing, man. You get black metal and you'd scoop the mids out and you dime the gain, and it would just be this fuzzy, hairy mess. And and the only way to really make it work was just to make the guitar unbearably loud.
And
but because it just gets sucked into all that sound,
I love it, man. And at that time, I didn't even have a pedal board. I had just the switcher and a wah, and I had an amp with no reverb. Like the dual rec is literally just a raw amplifier. And I remember playing a lot of shows, and the sound guys are like, "You seriously have a very dry signal." And I'm like, "Why is that bad?" They were like, "No, that's great for me because I can edit front of house."
Yeah.
So talking about running sound, I think you run sound as well as a sound tech.
Yes. So I'm actually I know it's funny. We were just talking about metal. I am still a metalhead, but these days I'm actually playing praise and worship at my local church. But I'm also on the tech team there. So a lot of sound questions end up coming my way. I also set up our lighting in there. We switched to LED, like a DMX LED system.
Nice.
And which, yeah, that's great. Like, I mean, the old system was DMX, but it was just the old dimmer packs. You turn it on, you turn it off, and we switched to some Hex 7 cans, which give you a lot more options in terms of how you can light things up. But yeah, set all that up. Way less heat. Yeah, that's a huge thing. And way less heat, and some of the lights kind of emit kind of a whining sound, so that's not great. But otherwise, they're a lot better, a lot less heat, and you can kind of control the color temperature a lot easier because it's not just one either on or off. Sorry about that little tangent, but no, yeah. So I'm on the tech team over there, and actually I was playing guitar, but the drummer went out sick, so I'm actually playing drums these days myself as well. And I just play an E kit over there, but being kind of a tech head, one of the first things I did, because I really don't like the way that E kits sound at all. I think they kind of out of the box, they're just awful. Yeah. So one of the first things I did was I plopped a computer behind it, loaded it with Superior Drummer, and that's what I'm running when I play it, because it's just infinitely better. It's a lot more realistic. Kid. Oh yeah, no, it's way more realistic sounding. It's the feel is better. The samples don't sound like garbage. It's definitely a better setup.
I've seen people with even Ableton and
even
Easy Drummer.
Yeah, Easy Drummer is the more kind of beginner songwriter friendly version that Tuning Track puts out. It's a lot more affordable too.
Yeah.
And whereas Superior, the samples are a lot more raw, and the mixer is a lot more, I mean, I guess you could say professional, because you can actually put EQ and compression on each drum channel and bus it within the plugin and all that stuff. Yeah, not to get off on a tangent. I know we're a pedal group,
I was
but
say that for everybody listening, we recently, within the last year, got the X32 Behringer, and you helped me out a great deal trying to set up the compressor.
Yeah. My cousin was attending a church, and they were doing a sound upgrade, and I was giving them a hand with that, and they actually went with the Behringer X32 as well, and I was really impressed with it. I mean, I will fully admit that in the early thousands, in the 90s, Behringer was kind of synonymous with garbage, disposable garbage. So you would buy their product, because my brother had a PA from them. You'd buy their product, and if it died, it became e-waste. So I actually had a pretty negative attitude towards Behringer in general, like in the early thousands and kind of the 90s. Yeah. Because some of it was just so bad. And I mean, I think they've made an effort to turn that around by buying Midas and having Midas included in a lot of their professional audio stuff, because the X32 is nothing like the old the older stuff that they did. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but a lot of their analog boards.
It was the ear Behringer with the big ear in it. And,
Yeah.
that's where the logo now looks. I mean, it looks like the recycle emblem because it's a triangle.
Right.
But
yeah.
because you pretty much buy it to throw away after the gig. But the stuff now, I think their parent company was it Music Core or Music Inc. or whoever owns them now.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but they have like their own city in China now that
Oh
manufactures.
yeah. No,
everybody.
well, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize how many properties and what Behringer does. As far as I know, they are the sole owner of any modern bucket brigade chip that is put into a product.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they own that chip. They own the patent for the chip that is
so
put
I
in
posted
bucket
that,
brigade. Yeah.
I posted that chorus ensemble clone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want some hot
Yeah,
takes
well,
on
and
that?
I was looking at it and I'm like, that's probably going to be awesome. I mean, I tried one of their analog delays, the plastic enclosure analog delays that had, it was a true bucket brigade chip set in this analog delay. And I was like, this thing is great. I mean, other than it being plastic and that kind of affecting the durability of it, but the sound of it, I was like, I think it was $35.
Yeah.
It's a great pedal.
Yeah,
I gave it to
rehouse it.
I didn't rehouse it, but I did give it to somebody who could use it more than me. I'm such I've given a bunch of stuff to people just because I'm like, can you use it? Yeah, I can use that. All right, yeah. Here you go.
Yeah. So my hot take on the chorus ensembles, since they own the chip, maybe they won't get a C&D.
Maybe. Yeah, the text is awful suspect. I'm like, that's really, really close to Boss's script.
It's probably got to sound pretty close.
I imagine it's going to sound good.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with Behringer's pedals.
Yeah, I was sharing that I'm now running both a Behringer microphone and interface, and
yeah.
surprisingly, it's done pretty good and held up. I think the B7 that I'm running is 2015ish, and they stopped making it or something, and now people are looking for them. This was actually gifted to me, so I was able to put it to good use.
There's like a handful of microphones that are on the more affordable end of things. I think there's a CAD microphone that I've found a lot of sound engineers really like them on toms, and they're not outrageous. I want to say they're like $120 a piece, but they don't make them anymore.
Yeah.
So it's one of those interesting things where it's like, yep, there were some gems, back in the day in the kind of made in China affordable, umbrella that they weren't bad. They were actually.
Yeah. And I think they're hidden gems, good. like you said, you're more of the studio guy in a way, and you're running like the SM7 there, and
yeah. This is an SM7B. Yeah, my background, just full disclosure, I went to college, got a music production degree. I do use it. I have recorded bands. I do have producer credits with some bands. They're all local stuff. I was a little bit bummed that this fell through, but I did get an opportunity to work with the drummer of Stained on some pre-production stuff for Stained. But then nothing came of it. I was like, oh man, are you going to write another record and I get to be a part of that? That'd be cool. But nothing came of it.
Lewis went country.
Yeah. So the drummer for Stained and Saint Asonia actually lives, he's local here. And I was introduced to him through a mutual friend. And he's a really nice guy. But he's also into recording, and he's significantly better than I am at drums. And he would at one point was just like, I need an engineer for this. So if you've got time, I'm like, I have time, and if I don't have time, I will make time. Absolutely. Because it was just kind of something that could have been exciting to be a part of, but yeah, nothing came of it. I still have some of that stuff on my PC, but I don't think anything. I'm not sure that it's ever going to turn into anything.
Materialize, yeah.
Yeah, whether the riff will be anything at any point.
Our discussions kind of go, and I think you might be in the same camp as me on this one, but boutique versus standard equipment. What's your hot take?
I will play any of it and all of it.
Yeah, so that's kind of
I
my
don't
camp too.
I don't care. I don't subscribe to the snob, like kind of the snobbery behind it, because when it comes to boutique gear, and I'm talking about like old expensive stuff, like maybe like the Klon Centaur, or like old made in Japan Boss pedals, or anything like, to me there's two boutiques, right? There's this small builder who puts out like 200 pedals a year. I consider that boutique. And then there's the stuff that isn't made anymore that the cork sniffers have kind of gotten a hold of, and they're like, this is awesome. And to me, the older stuff, I don't really subscribe to that, because I'm like, yeah, that's just parts drift, man. You just, something's out of spec and it sounds different, and you think it sounds better. Like, to me anyways. Now I know you own an old 250. That's actually pretty rad, so
Yeah,
I'm not against owning that stuff.
It's got that vintage, kind of the hoopty car. I got to use deoxit to keep it alive, and I don't think a lot of people
you
understand
said that.
vintage gear comes with the vintage leg. It's kind of like
yeah.
You see those guys that run the 5K just for the fun of it, and then you see the guys that run 5Ks their whole life, and they're literally just doing it for the fun of it, and they need a little help. That's what I'm talking
absolutely about. Yeah. And to be honest, it would be hard for me to own something like that, because if I had to start shooting deoxit in there, it'd be really hard for me to not pull it apart and put new pots in it, which would affect like the vintageness of it. You know what I mean? But it would be like, I just need it to function, like that would be me.
Honestly, I'm considering giving this a new home to somebody that is highly sought after for the 250 circuits.
Gotcha.
And this guy would be the best guy for that, to take a look at it and keep the vintage part alive. And me and him are in talks about it right now, but I won't disclose that yet. But
and I'd be in the same ballpark. It would be, for me, it would be more of a, somebody else is going to appreciate this more than I am.
I mean, like the lottery winner that goes and buys a brand new Lamborghini and then probably would wreck it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, for me, it's more of I know somebody else is going to appreciate this more than I am, and I'm totally happy with a reissue 250.
Yeah, so it's like me owning a 58 Les Paul. I have no business having one.
Yeah, no, same.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever own anything like that. I just, like, to me, guitars are tools. A lot of my guitars have dings and bangs in them, and I'll buy something beat up and I won't care as long as it functions, as long as the frets are good, as long as the feel is all right, I'm okay with it. I will play. I mean, I have a Squire all the way up to, I have an EC1000. I don't really own anything super expensive. And now I did acquire, because my cousin sold it to me. I actually have a 1983 Fender American Jazz bass, and I do kind of keep that a little bit better than my other instruments, but for the most part, I'm, they're tools. If they get banged, if they get broken,
dude, the Jazz
I'm not
bass
crying over it.
Best, like one of the best bass builds ever.
Oh, I love it.
Instantly recognizable, slap and pop, and that's,
throw some steel strings on there and a little bit of distortion, and you've got basically all that modern high gain bass tone.
But
so I got
some
fun. I got some questions for you, sir.
Oh no,
maybe some that you haven't thought about. Okay. So you've asked everyone what their first pedal is.
Okay,
and
mine.
We can skip over that because we're the same. I had the exact same dark gray 505, and like I have great memories of that. I actually want to acquire one again, just for nostalgia's sake.
I'm gonna tell you, if you're after that new digital like Space Echo, it has a ping pong delay on the Zoom 505. It's in stereo.
Oh yeah, I might have to check that out then.
If not, find you a G2. Yeah. You remember the G2s?
Yes, I do remember the G2s.
It actually has a better.
They were like
delay.
black with like silver.
Yeah,
kind
it was
of
a better
accents on
enclosure.
It. Oh, okay.
And I was thinking about finding a G2 myself. A friend of ours, John McCullough, he had a G2 and was sharing it with me and shared the ping pong delay on it. And I was just like, I couldn't guess what the pedal was. He was like, guess what this is? And I was like, that's a great delay. It's in
Like, that
stereo,
sounds
'cause I had it-
awesome.
Yeah. And he was like, this is a Zoom G2. And I'm like, no way.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. A lot of that old stuff was really good. My second pedal was a Digitech Rp14d,
Oh, yes.
which I can't remember if they threw a tube in that. I thought that was all
It is.
gimmicky anyways.
Yeah. The 14D
But-
and I got the 21D.
Okay. That would have been, I think that was the same generation, the 21 and the 14. Before that, they had the 12 and the 20.
The replacement switch, the little plastic buttons, because they
Yeah.
deteriorate. And
Yeah.
I tried to find somebody that are 3D printing those because Digitech stopped doing it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I've looked into buying another one of those as well, but a lot of them are really rough shape.
Yeah.
They just didn't seem to
That's
hold
because
up
of the
very
switch,
well.
but it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same 4-pin button as any other digital switch.
Oh, okay. Is it
But
just the
it's
little
it's
clicky
the
guys
plastic
underneath
piece.
it? Okay.
Yeah, it's just the plastic piece that over time it kind of deteriorates, but they're solid units, man. Like I'd recommend if someone just like, here, grab this, and I would take it.
Okay.
Throw them $50 for it or something. Like,
All right. So you ready for these questions?
yes.
All right. What is the oldest pedal that you own? Is it that 250?
Currently, it's the 250,
Okay.
and the next current, and it's probably closer to when I was born, is that DoD FX65 stereo course.
Oh, that's a good one though.
It's blue with the it's a
Yeah.
3-knob with the speed rate knob on it.
Dude, I love old Dodd pedals. I had one of the stereo flangers and I gifted it to a friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were good. Good. I remember those were what you would buy if you couldn't afford Boss, but they were still really good. Like, they were built well.
I thought they were
You
as
could-
good as Boss to me.
Yeah, you could kick them around. You'd usually lose the battery door, and they were built like tanks. The only thing that I ever saw really go wrong with them is occasionally the switches would die.
Yeah,
the
same
stomp
thing.
switches,
The
but-
plastics don't really age well with them.
Yeah,
And I think that's why Boss was a superior enclosure because of that.
yeah. I mean, that enclosure is basically timeless. It stood the
It's-
test of time.
It
I've
was
dropped
well
one
thought
out of a car and it survived. And so I'm like, all right, well, that sells me on that. Those are great.
Well, that's my 70s and 80s. The 90s pedal would be the Zoom 505 that I
Okay.
had, and I actually gifted it to somebody so they can have some fun with it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, if it was my first pedal, this is going to be your first pedal, and that's how that
It's
ended up.
It's a solid good pedal, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? All
And
that Zoom
honestly, I
stuff.
think I would just find a G2 to replace
Yeah.
it. That's 90s, 2000s era. Because I tried to do one for each decade,
Yeah.
and the 2000s one, I'm trying to remember. I think it literally has to be the RP21D because it was like a 2002 pedal.
I was gonna say, yeah, that would, because I'm trying to think of when I had the RP14, and it was probably 02, 03, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So that's my 2000s. Something more current, 2010s. I had that Tone City, which Tone City was a good build too.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't know about Tone City, but they were like made in Japan.
I was gonna say I never owned any of their stuff, but I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, the Model M was the kind of the classic Marshall sound, and it was
Okay.
kind of like a beefy blues breaker, and then they ended up making like a King of Blues, which was a KOT clone,
Okay.
and it was solid. And then I would say currently is just everything you see on my board today. So those jam pedals, man, like, I mean, technically if you want to say boutique, they're in Greece. Not unobtainium, but they're just kind of hard to get a hold of if you find a
Right.
dealer in the United States. But I looked out, and my local dealer sounds funny. My local dealer that deals pedals, not anything
Right.
else. Yeah.
No, I know. No, I have a local store too, and they carry electro harmonics, and they're my go-to for that.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
these guys just started carrying jam pedals, and they were like, "If I carry
okay.
jam pedals, would you buy one?" And I'm like, "I have to."
Right. Yeah, that's always a funny question. Hey, if I
Yeah.
carry this, will you buy it?
So
Most likely.
I have a pedal from every decade other than the '60s, which that's unobtainium for me.
Yeah, I don't think I own anything. Actually, I don't think I own anything earlier
Well,
than
my
the
neighbor has that
80s.
'62 Jaguar that I
Okay.
still borrow, that still hangs on my wall.
Gotcha.
That's the only thing '60s related. So I have something from almost every decade.
Yeah, I don't have anything out of the 70s. I used to have that basement, but I don't have that anymore. So I don't really have anything out of the 70s or
Yeah.
earlier.
So what's your oldest
So
one?
my oldest one, dude, I grabbed it down because I was
Yeah.
prepping for this, but this is an old 80s Tube King, man. And these are actually starting to, for whatever reason, get up in price,
Yeah.
which I'm like, I don't know if I would pay that much for for one. They sound good, but it's basically a straight ahead distortion pedal. And I have had to, I mean, this is where, like, I don't know if I affected the value on this or not, but I don't care because it's function issues. The old DC jack died, so I drilled a new hole and stuck one of those in. And then the foot switch completely stopped working. So I put a new switch in it. You
That
know,
old 4-pin.
it's actually it's more like a wah switch. So it's just a straight connect. I don't know if they're doing all the switching in the PCB or what, but it's actually not one of those 9-pin standard connectors that you find in a lot of other pedals.
Yeah, they call latching. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the 3P DT
Yeah. That's
double
also
double
true
throw.
bypass and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This I'm not sure that that's true bypass or not. The weird thing about this though is on a normal pedal, your input and your output are, left to right, but this is the output and this is the input.
I would have
So the
broke that
the
pedal
input's
already.
actually on the left side and the output's on the right side. So a little bit of different thinking there, I guess. It makes
Yeah.
wiring it on a board quite interesting.
This is where I'm going to encourage everyone. Make sure they're looking at the YouTube version of this just to see what we're talking about here. But
Oh
Tube
yeah,
King,
yeah.
yeah,
You gotta check that thing out. It's
yeah.
the only pedal I own where the input and the output are not
Backwards.
what you would expect. Yeah, not normal compared to a lot of other pedals.
So, do you have one from every decade, like I did, or?
I probably do, but I haven't dated every single thing I own, so I'm not sure where things line up. I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of my Boss collection is either late 90s or early thousands, just because some of that stuff either doesn't have modern features that they started putting on the pedal. Like I have a tremolo pedal, but they started putting like an internal gain pot on the newer ones, as far as I know, which is a good thing because the older ones, when you click them on, you would kind of get a volume suck out of it.
Yep.
And that was one of the first things I modded on that. I'm like, yeah, we're going to put a master volume on that. And
Yeah,
so I imagine that was early thousands. I
don't
know that
exactly
Tube
date
King
my
is
pedals
80s.
either, because I don't think I would take them out to a nice seafood dinner.
Right. Well, no, I mean, I don't know about, I mean, I want to say, I think this is early thousands.
Oh, the tweak
This-
fuzz.
Dude, this thing is a sleeper fuzz, in my opinion.
That is
So as far as I know, it's a fuzz face with a tweakable kind of a
bias
bass
chip,
boost. Yeah,
yeah.
kind of a bias boost. But dude, I got that thing. I think I spent $30 on it used. Like nobody's that into them or whatever, but they're
Yeah.
great. Like great enclosure, built like a tank, sounds cool. Good fuzz face tone.
A lot of people don't really think of Seymour Duncan for pedals, though. So
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But I had one of their twin tube preamps.
Mhm.
I think that's what they called it, the orange one.
Mhm.
And that thing was cool. They came out with some good stuff I want to say it was the late thousands is when they were doing that stuff. But yeah, that's good stuff. I don't know what Boss pedals I have, to be honest with you, that fit into I think it's the 90s.
Well, you had a Metal Zone, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know when it was built.
Yeah.
To be honest with you,
Um,
I know it's
nobody knows when
made
they're
in
built.
Taiwan.
They just kind of show up one day at practice.
Dude, they're like adopted, is what they are.
Yeah.
you just well, that's mine now. You know,
Yeah.
at one point I had two of them, which I think is funny because usually people will have them and they just kind of sit somewhere and you pull them out occasionally just for fun.
You were stacking them.
And yeah, man, I had a couple of them. I think it was because like when people sell them, man, they just don't hold their value at all. So I think somebody was getting rid of one for $20 and I'm like, yeah, I'll give you a 20 for that.
It'd be like a day like somebody's gonna boost the value of those.
Something. Yeah, something. I don't know.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah. Here's another question. Have you ever bought a pedal more than twice?
Yes, and I think you know this already. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Besides the Zoom 505
Okay.
is the K-Line Pure Sky.
Okay.
That's the blue Timmy clone.
Okay.
And I've bought a total of 5 different ones.
Just like them that much, or just get rid of them and then want them back?
18 volts. They're not rated for 18 volts, but I give it that headroom anyways because they're a throwaway pedal.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I've done that and they're like, oh, here's a great transparent overdrive. You got to try this. And I've given away 3
that's
out of
hilarious.
5. So.
Yeah. I think the pedal that I've purchased the most is the Boss DS1. I have bought at least 5 or 6 of those.
Yeah.
And usually the first one I think I had, I modified it and then I wanted something, so I traded it. The second one, my brother swiped it and I just never saw it again. My brother plays guitar too. You know, and it's a cheap pedal, so I wasn't that mad about it.
Like $30.
Yeah. I always buy them used, with the exception of
now.
Yeah, well, I did buy the anniversary, both the Super Overdrive and the DS1, and I'm not going to mod them. I just like them. I like the idea of having, you know, a pedal that was produced for only a year. I think they look nice. I like the circuits anyways. So, yeah. My brother lost one on me. I bought another one and I think I modified it and then I traded that one. And then, I think I own 2 right now. One's heavily modified and then one's the Black Anniversary. So I think a total of 5 times I've bought the DS1.
Yeah. Well, I only did that with a China built pedal, but
okay.
Yeah, bought more than once. I've bought an amp more than once, and that was
I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember the red knob like chorus or ultra chorus, but I've had
Fenders.
The Fenders. There was a pawn shop, and I was playing a Digitech Rp7 or Rp14 at the time.
Okay.
And I just needed a pedal platform, even though it was solid state. Like I've bought 2 of those just because it was black with the red knobs.
Yeah, no, I always thought the look of those was great.
Yeah, and that's why I bought it. And it was okay. I mean, it did fizz at high volume. So,
well, dude, I think everybody at some point looked at a piece of gear and was like, "That looks cool. I'm buying it because it looks cool." You know.
Yeah.
That's why for me it was for me it was a Crate Blue Voodoo 120 head.
Yeah, those things.
And
are loud.
I bought it brand new. And the funny thing was I rocked it for a while. And then I went to a 5150 and my friend ended up buying it off of me for not very much, because by the time I sold it, they had dropped their value like crazy. And recently I was like, hey man, can I borrow that? Because I couldn't remember what it sounded like. And I borrowed it and I was like, this thing is pretty bad, honestly. it's not the clean channel is, especially in my opinion, pretty bad. Just not a lot of overhead before it starts kind of crunching up, but not in a good way, not in like that cranked Fender way.
No, it didn't fizz. I call it
fizz
because it would go
the fizz. and it was noisy too. That was the other
Sorry about
thing that
people's ears
struck. Yeah, that was the other thing that struck me about that amp is it was noisy when I borrowed it again and kind of recorded it and put a more discernible ear onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hummy and hissy.
Yeah.
You know, which hiss comes with the territory of high gain amps, but that one was a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it looks
I have the
nice
last
though.
question, and I think I already know this one, but are you more of the minimalist or a big board kind of guy?
Well, when I was playing metal, I played straight into the amp. I actually didn't get into pedals really hard until 2018. And
Yeah.
before that, I had 3. And now I've got probably 60 or 70,
Yeah.
you know? So now, no, I prefer a decent sized board. I would go bigger than that if I could, because there's other pedals I would love to have on
Yeah.
it, but
Would you go rack?
no, I'm not really into rack gear. You want to know what it is I don't like hauling around gear anymore. So one of the reasons why I like the Stomp is I can just plop the pedal board down and plug directly into the PA and just use an IEM system
Yeah.
and have it sound good, you know?
Yeah.
But there is a Fender Deluxe reverb over at the church, should I want to use that. And that's a great amp.
Nice. 22 water. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. 112. I think it's 22 watts. Sounds awesome.
You can just crank it.
Yep. Yeah. There's a separate room to crank it in. So yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you this before we went online and record, but I was trying to give you a place to plug away at your.
Oh no, that's all right.
Anything you wanted to share?
Well, I'm not in a band anymore, but I used to be in a band called Mosul, and you can find that on Spotify. It's definitely a heavier band that I did with my brother, and I played drums on that. And that's really the only work that I have online. So
yeah. Well, you've been one of our mentors in the group as well. You know, like
yeah.
I've asked you studio questions, compressor questions.
I'm usually the one going, Boss doesn't suck. Boss is awesome. You know? Yeah, because that one. Yeah, that one though. Out of all the opinions, that one just never made any sense to me because they're widely accessible. They're built like tanks, and in my opinion, the circuits are good. Like they sound really good. So I've never understood Boss hate. I think they're a great brand.
It works. I mean, whatever works for the gig, man. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
But now,
well, and
over cymbals.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I mean, if you're a gigging musician, you know, that has to factor in, you know, how easy is it to get replacements? You know, the boutique small builder stuff is nice, but if it goes down on the road, then you're out of luck. Yeah,
I'm in a camp where I have mutual friends that are willing to help even in the emergency breakdown process.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
A lot of those guys are on the group too, and they enjoy listening to the podcast and enjoying the shenanigans. But Loren's also part of our shenanigans every day. So that's
I'm in that. I bounce in that group pretty regularly.
Yeah. So
I haven't posted any new stuff recently. Like usually when I get a new pedal, I'm like, check this new pedal out. And you know, I haven't done that in a while, which is sad because I've acquired a couple probably in the past couple months. I'm constantly buying stuff, new stuff. The most recent like Stomp box, I'll show it real quick.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say that I wouldn't recommend this pedal. It is interesting though, but it's the new Electro Harmonics intelligent harmony machine.
Like
so it's a harmonizer, but you can actually set the key for the harmony.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it works. It's just for me in my play style, I only find a couple of the settings to be usable for anything that I'm into. So it's not ever going to probably find a place on any board that I own, but you know, it's an interesting one. It's kind of pricey too. I think that's the other reason why I can't really recommend it. I want to say this is like $220 or something like that.
And I think I even asked like a couple of times because I just can't understand or wrap my head around it. Is it like the Ricochet or the Pitchfork or something?
Well, this one is a static harmonized note added to the note that you play.
So it's like diatonic lead kind of thing.
Yeah, but the way that you do it is so say you're playing in C, you can set it to a -6, a -4th, a -3rd, a third above, a fourth above, negative meaning like underneath the root.
Octave down.
Yeah. That's the other interesting thing. There were no octave settings in this. So it's all harmony notes. Yeah. Like I said, it's not my favorite pitch pedal. I'm still sticking with the 7-Up until I ordered a polyphonic octave generator, the big one, the 2 in November, and I still do not have it. And that's just kind of the
tubes at the moment for EHX. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a chip shortage or what, but yeah, I still do not have that pedal in my possession 6 months later. And that's just kind of the way things are right now. Yeah. I think I waited for the anniversary Boss. I think I waited like 4 months for that. So I'm used to it at this point. It's just kind of the way that things are with the supply chain issues, but it is a bummer because I want to try that out because it's got just so much more stuff on it. But I own a Whammy 5. That thing is fun. I'm using a 7-Up on the main board. I like that one a lot. The tone print stuff is really cool. And then I just swiped that guy, and that's kind of what I have in the pitch camp. So yeah, but they kind of all do different things. It's just I would stick the Whammy on the board. It's just so much larger. It doesn't really fit.
Side normally.
Yeah. I think I'd have to carry it separately and plug it in before everything else on the floor. So yeah, it's good stuff though.
Well, Loren, this has been fun, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, as soon as you kind of said you were doing the podcast and I'd listened to a couple, I was like, oh yeah, no, we should do that. That'll be fun.
I'm trying to make sure I give members opportunities first, but
yeah, I understand.
Not everybody's beating my door down, but I haven't really had to ask anybody.
Well, that's a good thing, because I know a lot of podcasts die because they can't find guests. So
yeah, I don't think we'll run out of guests because everybody keeps having gas in a good way.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And then
no, absolutely.
Tone Nirvana, that just know what they want and that's what they play, which I'm totally fine with that too. They love
see
stuff.
Yeah, and see when it comes to like amps and guitars, I'm pretty much like not really holy grail searching there, but when it comes to pedals, I'm like, that looks interesting. I want to try that. Yeah. Like eventually I know I'm going to be trying that new Line 6 DL4 because I had one of the originals back in the day. And then they just kind of became too big. So I was like, yeah, there's better options in terms of space on a pedal board than the DL4 because it's a big boy. Yeah. But that's a great pedal. I also really want to try the new Boss Space Echo. Yeah, I think it's the RE202, the bigger one. I want to try the bigger one. Yeah, that thing looks really cool.
They look awesome too. But
yeah,
honestly, like it all works, man. And like I said, you've been in the same camp. But just wrapping up here, you guys can find us on the Signal path if you're just listening to the podcast only. That's where I'll be. Yeah, as more of a mentorship, you can ask Loren anything. You can ask me anything. We'll be glad to chime in and help with your questions. Again, I try to encourage everybody to listen online, but try to look at the YouTube because you see all the nice stuff everybody shows on camera. Yeah.
I brought some show and tell. I didn't show everything. I'll show the. I've posted this before too, but
the mini board.
This is the mini board.
Yeah.
Nice little. This has got a lot more of my build on it.
The rubber neck.
Yep. So this has got a Wampler Pantheon clone is the first. Mm-hmm. That Helios is a rat, which is the second pedal. The third pedal is called they called it the Pandemic Fuzz, and I just kind of stuck to the parts list. But it's as far as I know, it's some kind of muff clone. Yeah. But it sounds really neat. Then I got the Dodd Rubberneck, and the final pedal is a Earthquaker Devices Ghost Echo clone. Well, at least that's what the PCB said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't gotten into designing any of my own stuff yet.
Yeah.
I have done like some point to point stuff, without PCB, but that's kind of, and I just build for myself. That honestly, the Ghost Echo didn't really save me any money. I probably could have bought a used one for the price that it cost to build that. So
it was for the adventure for the parts list, right?
oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, the artwork is just so much fun. Like pulling this off. But I have a friend who does screen printing.
Yeah.
And we just
I like the knob choice too.
yeah, we just kind of, I bought a candy apple, powder coated enclosure and then, took it over there and he was actually just trying it to try because he's only done t-shirts and I was like, well, do you want to try screen printing some enclosures? And he goes, well, I've never done it before, so yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that envelops his portfolio to widen. So
yeah, and then he gets to kind of show that he's able to do that. I don't know if he's been able to sell any work doing that, but he was actually a singer in a band I recorded, and he goes, "Oh yeah, no, I screen print for a living." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
Well, let me pick your brain about this, because it wasn't something that I really wanted to invest in doing myself."
Yeah, and that's where we
'Cause
have
it can
our
be pricey.
mentorship program with the Signal Path as well. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, at your local grocery store or wherever you can find us. So
Right, walking around,
yeah,
local
and
area
then,
or whatever.
started the Patreon just to help offset our costs. I'm trying to encourage our first subscriber. Now make sure I'll shout them out. You'll get to be, your name will be said on the thing, meaning I get to read your name out loud as the first Patreon
Oh yeah,
subscriber.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Subscribe to his Patreon.
yeah,
It's
so
worth it.
Loren, thank you for your time today, dude. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there anything else left you want to plug? That's it, or
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not really in a band or anything these days, so I don't have anything, unfortunately, that interesting
so
to
you
plug
might have some
anymore.
more availability of answering
Yeah.
those really tricky questions.
Yeah. Although I will answer, because I get this question sometimes is, will I build for other people? And the answer is no, I won't. I'm sorry, guys.
That's totally
I'm
fine.
just-
So
I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid if somebody watches this on YouTube and sees a pedal, like, oh, that's really great. Like, I'm sorry, it's it's not
you can
gonna
point them to the PCB and
Yeah, I can absolutely point you to how I did it and everything, but yeah, I'm not. I've built for other people a total of 2 times, and they were kind of people I knew, so I just don't do it.
all right.
So
That's your DIY builder here for
Yep.
Loren as well. So he's a great resource. You can contact him on the Signal Path. So
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
always, I want to thank you guys for listening today and joining our YouTube or our podcast. And we'll sign off here.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having
Bye,
me.
guys.
See you later.
See ya.